Hey guys, welcome to Financial Health and Wealth, where we educate you in various ways to improve yourself financially and live long, healthy lives. Today we're going to talk about Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover versus Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and which one is a better financial guide. If you'd like to see more of this content, then like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know about future videos. Let's get started. Here's what Dave Ramsey teaches. The Total Money Makeover advocates a specific process divided into 7 baby steps as a means to becoming financially secure. Ramsey makes points about the difficulty people can have in identifying a lack of sound personal financial management and the danger this presents. He also spent significant time relating how society tends to glorify and/or encourage certain types of unwise financial behavior, particularly the use of credit. Now, Dave says, look, we need a budget. I agree with Dave. We need a budget. No matter what you use, Dave says a budget is required. He does not believe in using credit cards. For people who need help with financial discipline, no credit cards is a good idea. But I also have seen people who use credit very frugally. Dave says to live a frugal life. I don't think there's anything wrong with living frugally. I do. We just want to spend less than we bring home. It just makes common sense. He says we got to put a lot of money away, and I agree with him. We need to have some cash for an emergency fund. Keep this in mind. Cash is going to be devalued every year because of inflation. If inflation increases by 2%, cash is going to be 2% less valuable to us next year. Dave encourages people to invest in mutual funds. I heard the other day on a radio show that a good mutual fund can earn 12%. I'm not sure many investment advisors would agree with that percentage. You may be better off putting that money in ETFs, annuities, or diverse stock portfolios if you hate risk. But what I do know is if you invest your money and leave it alone, you're going to be a lot better off than putting your hopes in just cash in the bank. Dave hates debt. I don't disagree with him. Debt can cause people lots of pain. It causes people to lay awake at night. But debt is not necessarily a bad thing if you know how to use it to your advantage. I personally leverage debt via credit cards and loans to achieve my financial goals. Plus, when you factor in the 44 million people with student loans currently and the millions of people making 7 figures investing in real estate, it makes it harder to argue against debt. Dave says the American dream is a smart plan. Go out with a little bit of money down and buy a home. He recommends a 20% down payment if possible, but if you can't save that much in 3 years, then do no less than 10%. He also hates government loans like FHAs and VA loans. So we're going to go to the other side of the financial fence now. When Robert Kiyosaki came into the picture, he basically took what Dave was teaching and he turned it on its head by suggesting to readers to do the opposite of what Dave teaches in some situations. These are the main ideas of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. It's not how much money you make that matters, it's how much money you keep. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities, and they think they are assets. Financial aptitude is what you do with money once you make it, how you keep people from taking it from you, how to keep it longer, and how to make money work hard for you. The single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. Robert believes the best way to become rich is to start a business. He uses the example in his book of how his rich dad started a business, his poor dad was an employee. I don't know if I agree with the thinking, but that's what Robert teaches. He's also a strong proponent of purchasing assets. What is an asset? An asset is a position that appreciates over time. Instead of buying mutual funds, he says to buy real estate, buy a business, or buy individual stocks. Is there anything inherently wrong with any of these asset classes? No, not necessarily. Is there anything wrong with mutual funds? No, not necessarily. But Robert Kiyosaki really dislikes mutual funds. He says to learn from mistakes and to be prepared to make financial mistakes. It's important when you fall down to learn from it and learn how you can improve from this point forward. There's probably nothing more contradictory or opposing in this battle between these two than debt. Robert will say use debt, use as much as you can possibly get, but use it wisely. We never really hear that from Dave's side of the table. Instead, Dave says get out of debt. Robert says to use the tax code to your advantage. I haven't seen where Dave gives tax reducing strategies. Instead, he says speak to your CPA or talk to your financial advisor. Robert says don't buy a home. He mathematically argues that a home can be a poor asset. I disagree with this sentiment because real estate can be more than rentals. There's nothing stopping you from purchasing your first home below market rate, fixing it up, and using the built up equity for other financial goals.
Okay, guys. So I did want to go back and revisit what the baby steps are so that you have a little more clarity. Step one is to have a $1,000 starter emergency fund in the bank. Now, this one I do disagree with because I do believe at this day and age, $1,000 really isn't going to get you very far if your water heater breaks or your car blows up. Step two is to pay off all debts, smallest to largest, with the debt snowball, which is very effective. Step three is fully funded emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of expenses. I do agree with this. Step four is to invest 15% of pre-tax income into retirement savings. That's pretty high for some people, but at least shoot for 10% if you can. Step five is invest for kids' college savings. Now, you don't have to go to Harvard or Yale, but at least have some money put aside for your local state college. Step six is pay off the house. At this point, you're probably in your early middle ages or getting closer to retirement, so this should be the only major debt that you have left. And the last step is to build wealth and give a bunch away. Now, Dave proposes that you give back to your community, to your church, whatever way you deem fit, or you can just give it all away to various charities and GoFundMe funds or whatever makes you happy. Now, overall, I do think that this is a good program and you will be helped if you just follow the steps, but with some updates, as I said before, especially with that starter emergency fund, because you definitely don't want to have your very first step not be enough to help you. And another issue that I had touched on earlier was how Dave recommends you put 20% down on a home. As you can see with this map here, there are a few states, I'd say, that 20% is going to be a little difficult, especially in California, New York, Alaska. People may possibly have to come up with the equivalent of a year's salary to buy a home. I'm not sure if that is a good way to go about things. No. If you look at the actual math for a down payment for someone who makes $50,000 or even $100,000 a year, the difficulty of doing that versus a traditional low down payment becomes very evident. And here are the basic principles from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. One is that the financially free don't work for money. Two, the financially free work for financial literacy. Three, to become financially free, you have to mind your own business, which means start a business. Four, the financially free study taxes and the power of corporations. Five, the financially free invent money. And six, to become financially free, work to learn, don't work for money. Now, I definitely agree with the concepts of being financial literate, learning more about how money works and making it work for you. My main caution would be to not become money obsessed to the point that you feel that there is a difference between you or others just because of the amount that's in your bank account. Which leads us to the cash flow quadrant. Now, this is where he really breaks down the differences between people. In the upper corner where you see employee, that's a person who clocks in, clocks out, gets a paycheck no matter what they do. He is very against this person and doesn't believe that you should ever find yourself in this situation. Next, we have the self-employed individual, which a good bit of you probably fall into that category. Robert also is not the biggest fan of the self-employed because he does still feel as if you're working to get money and not having money work for you. He's more aligned with the business owner side and the investor side. Then with the business owner, you may have a company, you have people working for you, but you still have to put in time to keep making that money. While the ultimate goal is to become an investor where your money works for you, sleeping or awake.
So, to sum this up, 1. Dave Ramsey's plan is going to give the average Joe a little bit more peace of mind, but it isn't as up to date with modern prices in real estate, student debt, and cost of living changes in the past 20 years. Number 2, Robert's plan will make you wealthier if you're able to follow it. However, his extreme viewpoint of rich versus poor and how he makes being poor seem dirty or horrible is not the best look. Number 3, use debt wisely. Use debt to generate cash flow, not to flex on your friends. Number 4, create multiple streams of income. To me, it makes sense to build net worth in multiple ways. Whether it's through retirement plans, real estate, a 9-to-5, a side gig, or the lottery. The bottom line is that both are very good books to read, and I recommend you give them both a read, as one preaches good debt and bad debt, and the other says to have no debt at all. Is one of them right or wrong? Look, choose for yourself. I think there's a good blend between both of them. I think there are potential dangers with both extremes. I'm just challenging you to think about which approach will provide the guide down your financial path. So, thanks for watching, and as always, hit the like and subscribe buttons to keep getting future content, and go ahead and tap that notification bell while you're at it. Enjoy the rest of your day.